Hey there everybody, and welcome back to more Fatal Frame. So with our new key in hand, let's go ahead and see what is behind the locked door that the editor was trying so hard to get through. Why, it's an incredibly sparse and yet item-filled study. First things first, we do find a new piece of information over here. This old research scrap is going to go over a bit more in regards to the sacred rituals that had once gone on here. Not in any complete detail, other than to say that it does give us a particular date that the ritual might have happened on that is now considered somewhat of a haunted date. In addition, there is a little secreted away item underneath the table here. And this is actually a very, very powerful healing item. The stone mirror will actually revive Miku after she has been killed, and will actually revive her with full health. The only drawback is that you can only ever carry one stone mirror at a time. And next to this herbal medicine here, we do have a easily missed door. Leading out to just a really lovely view of the outside garden area. Oh, and something is shining over here in the corner. Along with a very lovely little scare there. But in the darkness we do find yet another herbal medicine. And if we investigate the balcony itself, Miku informs us that the moonlight is playing off pretty nicely with the darkness of the atrium. But as we head back into the study, there was a door I overlooked beforehand. And inside we find a conveniently placed save point, along with, I assume this might be something of a bedroom for a small child with dolls. But amongst the dolls, we do find a brand new audio tape. And this one is differently colored from the white tapes we found before, so let's go ahead and take a listen and see what information we can garner.
September 10th, 10:20 a.m. We discovered some disturbing photos in a chest of drawers. Could these be the folklorist's children mentioned in Koji's notes? The photo is quite old and shows some kids playing tag. In the corner of the photo, there's a faint image of a young girl in a white kimono. Her finger is pointed this way, and her eyes look as if she's making some silent accusation.
So a bit of new information there. We get the mention of a folklorist along with a man named Koji, who we haven't heard mentioned before. We also find a brand new file. The red notebook scrap, I think, has to do, well, with the color coordination we saw on the audio tape. I assume it's probably written by the same person. But we see a mention of the folklorist yet again, and we find out that Koji is actually the name of the editor that we happened to dispatch in the prior video. It doesn't seem like the person that wrote that had too high of an opinion of Koji, but, well, Can't really speak ill of the dead, I suppose. But there is a easily missed item in the drawers here. And it is some more film, which is always appreciated. But outside of the save room, there's rarely any reason to ever come back into this particular room. But the red notebook did mention something of the folklorist library. And we do see a boarded up screen door over here that is actually leading into the library, so not actually sure why she was needing Koji to find it, but, well, for right now, we don't actually have access to it. And thankfully the editor was not hiding in this closet. Instead, we get some more Type 37 film, which I probably will be using in the next update as the Type 14 film is becoming a bit weak.
My instincts told me not to. On my body, just like Koji.
Can only kind of assume, given the color coordination and the fact that that was clearly a female ghost, that this was the person that we heard recording on the red tape and writing in the red notebook. Seems, though, that this particular person also has a sixth sense, kind of like Miku and Mafuya, and she was feeling a bit ill at ease at working in the mansion, but she was actually pretty enthusiastic about working with Mr. Takamine. Along with even more herbal medicine, we do find yet another locked door. Not actually sure what is holding some of these doors locked, but one can only assume it's ghostly forces. So, without any other course of action, I guess it's time to head on downstairs.
Mafuyu. Wait.
And say hello to a brand new enemy. This man is known as the Man with Long Arms. We don't actually ever get a solid name for him. But even though he is quite a bit slower than some of the other ghosts we run into, that is a bit of a misconception, or it's just to leave you off guard, as he actually does have a very, very long reach. You can also tell he has a bit more health than what we're used to. You also see there just how much damage that even a baseline ghost can do. But just waiting for his shudder moment whenever he is reeling down along the ground is usually the best course of action, as it will knock him backwards. Now, I was partially thinking about maybe using one of the many herbal medicines that I've picked up, but I might as well save those for right now. And while I would investigate that door, I did almost think I saw Mofuya's image heading down this direction. Inside the crevice, we do find a very old news article. This is going over the fact that it seems that some children in the nearby area went missing, and due to some old superstition, the villagers seem to have assumed that there were some ghosts in the mansion that snatched the children up. And actually, as we'll be seeing later, that's not too far-fetched, and indeed the man with long arms has some connection with that. You can also see here along the walls what I assume to be the scratching of the man with long arms, well, long arms. Possibly dragging his victims away into that little crevice to die. But let's go ahead and start searching behind some of the doors on this particular floor. In this room adorning the wall, we do see a little family shrine, I assume. Probably for the Himuro clan. We also find even more words from that female ghost we saw before. Yet again, speaking of a woman in a white kimono with long hair. I can almost assume that might be why we saw that ghost the first time, just looking at a mirror. But as we open these screen doors, we do see yet again a very wonderful use of perspective. Really, you're just never sure what's going to be behind the next screen door. But here we do find another brand new item. It's actually the last healing item of the game. The sacred water will actually heal Miku all the way up to full. So those are actually very good to stockpile, as we won't be getting very many of them. Also, just to give you an idea of where we are in the mansion, we're actually right next to the hallway full of ropes that, well, that's where we got the camera obscura in the first place. In addition, we also find another pretty old parchment here. And this is going over, I guess, a little bit more in depth in regards to the shrine maidens that were part of the ritual here. Just talks about their limbs being bound and possibly used as a sacrifice for some dark ritual. Say hello to another brand new enemy. This is the floating woman. Now what she has over the man with long arms is quite obviously the just speed that she goes at. But she does have quite a bit less health, and she is actually a bit easier to take care of. The only thing you have to be aware of is that due to how this room is set up, it can be kind of difficult to see just where she's coming from. And the next door here we have on this floor has a brand new mechanic for the game, which is a very intricate looking lock. Now, considering that I'm not very well versed in Japanese characters, I'm very sad to say, it may seem a bit daunting to the average player just as to what you're actually supposed to be doing here. It does give us a little bit of a hint in regards to a Shinto ritual, strangling, and the day of, but, well, we have no idea what these characters might mean. Thankfully, though, if we look into our massive repository of files, we'll see that there are a number of little subsections here. And we see that we actually got one from the editor, Koji, that mentions a chart for the manners mechanisms. Now, this isn't actually going to give us a straight answer, but it will at least give us a legend for figuring out what each of the characters means. In general, they are just normal numbers, but they actually do have additional meanings for just individual words. And we actually did get a date earlier on in, I think, that little study that we were in before. It did mention that there was some type of ritual that played out on, that's right, December 13th. But it is important to remember that the Japanese, in addition to I think most European nations, don't list out month and day, but rather day and month. So it's merely an issue of putting in 13 and 12. That won't be the only time we'll be running into one of those particular locked doors, and that's why it's always a good reason to definitely read through the material you get in the game. But by looking at our general surroundings, we do seem to have found ourselves in what appears to be a storeroom, and as one can assume from being a storeroom, there are plenty of items laying in wait for us to get. Some of them are not very obvious, so it is a good idea to click and check on every box in here, though there are some items that are pretty obvious. In addition, there actually is a piece of, well, there's a file waiting for us hidden away in here. And this one gives us a little story about a girl who went missing in the mountains, but was found later, though her parents never did make it out alive. Not actually sure if that ever factors into any of the other Fatal Frame games, but I don't think so. What was that? Well, hidden behind this little box here, we do find a very, very special item. The Type 74 film is actually the second strongest film in the game, and is really a godsend in certain situations. But with that final spirit stone, I think we have actually found everything we can loot in the storeroom here, so just go ahead and make our way out. think on this particular floor we just have one more door to investigate. And already we can see that something is setting off our camera viewfinder sensor. Before we get to that though, there are quite a few items we can loot in here, such as on the altar. Seems to be a pretty disheveled altar, but here we do get a clue that would actually have helped us on that previous locked door if we had not found the previous scroll in the study.
Is trying to say something. Something important.
And it seems much like the editor Koji, that woman is still directing us and leading us where she wants us to go. We also possibly get a name for that woman in white, but it seems that whoever was writing this red notebook definitely was a bit put off by that woman in white. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at this door and see what it might be in need of. Much like the screen we saw earlier, by taking a picture of these talismans that are blocking access to the door, we do get a picture of another location. And I do think we know where that location is. But actually, before we head over there, might as well go ahead and investigate inside this door here. Now, we won't actually be revisiting this area for quite a bit, but it is a good idea to figure out that there are a few items in here to pick up, along with a save point if you need it. We also find yet another scrap from that black notebook, that was Takamine's notebook. Seems they actually ended up finding the editor's body, torn to pieces. Also, it seems that we finally found out the name of that woman writing the red notebook. I think her name is Tomoe. We also find yet another mention of the 5 gods. We'll be running into quite a few ideas of the number 5 having a deeper meaning. But we also get an idea that in the future, this might become kind of important. For right now, though, it's completely broken and thus blocking our way through the door, so that's why we will be revisiting this area later. For right now, let's go ahead and head back on to the storeroom and see if something new isn't waiting for us there. And in case you needed any help figuring out just where you needed to go, the game is pretty helpful in telling you exactly where you need to go. But in case you were wondering why that ghost wasn't there whenever we had previously visited the room, well, it's because those ghosts will actually not appear till you actually take a picture of the talisman that they are connected to. It's always good to keep that in mind, even though you might have played this multiple times before. You do always need to take a picture of those talismans, otherwise, well, you might just have a wasted trip on your hand. But with that ghost dispatched, the talisman has now burned away on the door. And that means we can now safely progress through and find out just what is waiting for us. Kyrie. I've heard that name somewhere before. And already we have yet another talisman to deal with. This one, though, is going to show us a location we actually have not been yet. I get a feeling, though, that we'll be finding where that is pretty shortly. Seems that Tomoe, even in the terror that was surrounding her, was still trying to figure out just what that woman in white was wanting from her. I get a feeling, though, that I don't think any of us actually want to know what that was. Also, we see from Takamine here that Tomoe was just getting worse and worse with each passing moment. And it was almost getting to the point where Takamine might have had to leave her behind. So we find yet another locked door. And another brand new mysterious location. So passing through the arches here and seeing some really lovely shadow effects. On the stairs we do find yet another tape from Tomoe. Let's see what she has to say this time.
September 11th, 8:16 p.m. We looked all over the mansion, but we still couldn't find Koji. While true that this mansion is huge, I'm certain we would have found him by now. Could we have already left? He's been saying something about more ropes since we took some photos yesterday.
Yeah, it can be a bit disconcerting to see the lack of chronology regarding some of these files. But you may notice over here there's a little bit of distortion. There is a hidden away ghost here. In addition, you may be noticing that Miku is looking at something behind this pillar. And it is actually another stone mirror. But, as I stated before, we can only ever carry one at a time. But it is good to keep in mind where these stone mirrors are, as they don't just magically go away, they'll actually be left behind. So even if you are really bad at the game and keep dying, well, you can always come back and get another.
Mr. Duck, save me.
So yet again at this point, we can almost assume, well, what Tomoe was actually going after here. But do we really want to follow her? So another look at the final moments of yet another character. And possibly a closer look at just what is actually haunting this place. But let's go ahead and take a listen to what might have been the last words of Tomoe.
September 12th, 9 a.m. I found Koji. His death was just like the one in the mountain village. His head and limbs were severed. I can't believe what's happening.
Yet another mention of rope marks. We saw them on the picture of Koji. We also saw them there on the last moments of Tomoe. So I'm not exactly sure what they mean, but we actually do find the location that was stated in that one particular door talisman. Also, outside of the creaking of the water wheel, you can actually look out upon what appears to be a pretty sprawling lake with fireflies dancing on the surface. We also take a seemingly innocuous picture of a lit garden lantern. Suppose we're gonna have to light that at some point. But it seems that, well, outside of this third stone mirror here, we have come to pretty much the end of where we can go in this particular area. It seems that the dockway here is just completely broken apart. And if you were wondering what this particular area was called, well, it has a very lovely name. The Abyss. Yeah, let's, I think it's a good idea to get the fuck away from this place. Before we do that, though, there is one last hidden away item over here in the corner. That's right, we get even more Type 37 film. We actually might be, at this point, having more Type 37 film than Type 14. Yeah, just by a little bit, but, well, we are sitting on quite a few points right now, so might as well do a few more upgrades. Actually be maxing out the basic performance options pretty quickly. It's another reason why it's a really good idea to make sure and go for those shutter opportunities and really try to maximize the points you get. Yeah, you have to be pretty much on your toes for that particular chance at catching Tomoe. But behind the locked door, we find ourselves surrounded on all sides by porcelain faces and empty eyes just watching us. Yet another mysterious hole seemingly going to nowhere, much like we saw in the front room. But where Tomoe was standing, we do see a little gated off, rather special looking doll. Possibly a little idol for Kyrie. Or just a sacrifice maiden in general. We also get even more information from Tomoe regarding what appeared to be some children playing. She did mention beforehand that she did find a picture of some children playing tag, but, well, as such, we haven't really found any indication that there were children here at some point. We also find yet another spirit stone. But more importantly, with all the dolls in this room, may seem like the perfect place for a hidden ghost. And say hello to another new and almost mini-boss-esque enemy, known as the Small Child. Now, while initially seemingly not as dangerous as the man with long arms, this Small Child actually has a very special ability, which I will not be showing off, but, well, if you allow it to fully rear up, it will actually stun Miku, allowing it to get in a free and pretty dangerous extra hit. So, if you make sure to charge up your camera and get it right when it's rearing up and getting that shutter moment, you'll be, well, doing okay. The problem is sometimes it will do a charging move instead of the stunning move, and it can pretty easily catch you off guard, especially given the fact that that hole in the center of the room cuts off a really large portion of your moving space. But with that other talisman now taken care of, we can go ahead and head towards that other door. And I think there we will be calling it a video. But before we do that, there is one incredibly tricky vanishing ghost here to take care of. That's why I'm actually getting in position beforehand. Normally I don't like to telegraph things, but this one is just a pain. In more ways than one. Yeah, after that vanishing ghost quickly falls off of the balcony up above, does introduce us to a final new enemy, the woman with a broken neck. This one actually has an incredibly small window of opportunity to get in a shutter moment, and actually will stop us from attacking up until it will turn its broken neck to face us. But keeping in mind when its shutter moment is, and keeping in mind the fact that, well, you can only attack during very particular moments, it can actually be less annoying than normal. That's pretty much what all the ghosts have in common, is that they have pretty easy patterns to get down, well, at least for right now. And knowing those patterns makes a lot of these fights a lot more simpler than they should be. But I did realize that I did miss a pretty easily missed item down here in the corner. And I promise we will be getting those auxiliary functions later on. We won't just be stockpiling these spirit stones for no reason. But with that, we'll be going through this door next time. Hopefully you'll be joining me then for more Fatal Frame. See you then.